Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Brian. I'm an engineering manager here at Figma. I support the design systems team to bring you all the magic of components, styles, and as of this morning, variables. But today, I'll be switching modes to be your host. Get it? Modes, variables. Wait, I'm getting some direction that I can't continue until I hear all the laughter I can get. Get it? Modes? Thank you, thank you. Last year's config was my first, and it was incredible to see all the speakers bring all the energy they had, and for a full 24 hours. This year, I'm happy to be a part of it. It comes as no surprise that I'm thrilled to see all the ways in which you, the Figma community, have used design systems to make what you build even more magical and powerful. That being said, are you excited to hear from more incredible speakers? Woo! In this next session, we have Jaycee Day, a senior product designer at GitHub, joining us from Berlin to share why transparency always wins. I heard that when making the move from Canada to Berlin, she bought a one-way ticket because it sounded fun and never looked back. Jaycee has a passion for ethical design, something we need more than ever. I'm super excited to hear her speak about the ethics in design and to see how she moved the needle for not only for users, but for the business. That all being said, it would be unethical to not give her your warmest applause. Welcome to the stage, Jaycee.
Thanks for the intro, Brian. I laughed at your jokes. Very good dad jokes. Thanks, everyone. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm going to jump right into it. We've all been there before. You sign up for a 7-day trial, forget to cancel, and then suddenly you're charged for the full year. This is super frustrating. This is something that's happened to me and probably a ton of you, and this happens for apps across the globe. This is a problem that we saw at Blinkist and a problem that I wanted to solve. But firstly, what is Blinkist? Blinkist is a pretty cool app. If you haven't used it, you should definitely check it out. It's an app for iOS, Android, and it's also available on web. It has 50-minute bite-sized book summaries for all nonfiction books. They also have shortcasts, which is the same kind of concept, but with podcasts, so shortened podcasts. But how did the trial look like at Blinkist? So you would download the app, and then you'd have the option for the free version, which was 1 blink a day that was decided by us. You could also sign up for the premium version by giving your credit card details, and you would get this 7-day free trial of blinks for across the app. If you canceled during that time, you would go back to the free version of the 1 blink a day. If you didn't cancel, after 7 days, you would be charged for the premium trial. For a lot of users, this was great. People loved Blinkist and wanted to continue using it for a year. But of course, for some people, this was frustrating because they forgot to cancel. Maybe they didn't put an alarm to remind them to cancel. Maybe they forgot they even downloaded the app and didn't get a second to check it out. So that's where people were getting really frustrated. In fact, 40% of our negative reviews were about this. So people said things like, I feel like you're stealing my money, you're being deceptive, I feel like you're lying. And somebody said, I can't even look neutrally at your service. So this made me feel really bad. But who am I? I'm Jaycee Day, aka 2Average everywhere online. I'm currently a senior product designer at GitHub working on growth for Copilot. Prior to that, I was working at Blinkist as a senior product designer, also on growth, and currently also doing ethical conversion design consulting on the side. But today, we're going to be talking about my time at Blinkist. So as I'm a designer, like many of you here, I'm always vouching for the user, and that's my job, to always be the voice for the user. So at first, my designer brain just said, let's make it free. Let's make this free for everybody. People don't want to be paying for this premium trial, or sorry, for this premium membership, so let's just make this free for everybody. Of course, the business came back and said, we have to stay profitable, we still need to make money, so we can pay for your salary as well as all of your coworkers' salaries as well. We also introduced a 7-day trial a couple years prior, and we saw a 19% increase in trial opt-in. So we couldn't lose that big conversion amount that we saw. I ended up spending 9 months trying to convince people that this is a problem that we should focus on. We tried a few things during that time that could help this problem, such as a 14-day trial. We thought people might have more time to use the app, maybe have more time to cancel if they want to cancel. But we ran this as an A/B test, and this just performed really terribly. Another test that we tried was a hard paywall. So for Blinkist, what this meant was that there was no trial at all. If you wanted access to all the blinks, then you would have to pay right away. And this was even worse than the 14-day trial. So we couldn't go with this one either. When I finally got buy-in, and I'll tell you how I did that in a second, the first iteration only took 2 weeks, and the second iteration was only 4 weeks. So a pretty quick turnaround. I wanted to explore this a bit more, so I worked with a user researcher to run a survey to ask a bunch of questions about growth. One of those key questions was, why didn't you sign up for the trial? And out of all of the reasons that they didn't want to sign up, maybe they don't find the value of Blinkist, maybe they didn't understand what Blinkist was offering, the number one thing was this fear of forgetting to cancel and being charged without wanting to. So I took a look into the data. I looked at the cancellations of trial by day, and you can see here on the first day, we see this huge spike. So we kind of had this hypothesis that maybe people were downloading the app, not even trying it out, getting this trial, and then canceling right away because they were scared of being charged. On day 6, we saw another peak. So this was just before the trial was ending. Maybe people set a reminder to themselves, maybe they just remembered to cancel, but we saw a peak there as well. I also then realized I can't just be vouching just for the user. I have to make a business case for this as well. So how does this benefit the business as well as the user, and what is that sweet spot? So I decided to run a workshop, and I got a bunch of people together to kind of get them on my side and create this kind of groupie that will really push for this problem. I invited what was called the Kartoffel team, which is potato in German, which is a cross-functional team of 2 Android engineers, 2 iOS engineers, QA, PM, me, the designer. I also invited somebody from user research, as well as somebody from CRM and marketing. So I wanted this to be like across a bunch of teams so I could go bottom up to say, like, this is something we want to work on. But back to how this workshop was run. So firstly, I got all this research and data that I showed you before, plus some other things about other problems that we're having at Blinkist. I got people to vote for which problem that they wanted to focus on right now. And unanimously, everybody really wanted to focus on this problem at hand. After that, we came up with some solutions and got people to write some solutions down on some stickies, voted for those, then did some sketching, so my wireframe's already done for me, and voted for those also. Then we came up with this idea. The idea was trial reminders. Trial reminders on the 5th day. So what that means is 2 days before their trial was ending, we would send them a push notification saying, hey, your trial's about to end, check out Blinkist, or you can cancel if you don't like it. We knew this was super risky, though. So we had kind of an MVP idea here now, but how do we pitch it to the business that it's not just for the user? So one thing was better morale. So across the company, and more specifically in this group of people that I got together, we wanted to go to sleep at night knowing that we weren't stealers, robbers, people that are being deceptive to these users, and we wanted to feel better about it. One of our company values was default to transparency. We were not being transparent here at all, so this is something that we wanted to change. We wanted to have less low app ratings. So right now, we had so many of these lower app ratings that were just about this subscription problem. We thought longer term, if we have less low app ratings, these higher app ratings, we'll have more people downloading the app. We also had a huge burden on customer service because they were responding to these messages all the time about the same thing. So we wanted to reduce that burden. This was super risky, as I mentioned, so we also said that we would watch the data carefully. We would wait for the data to just reach significance, which means just enough data to know if we can go through with this project or not, and also make sure to keep an eye on it so there's nothing going off and data going up or down too much. So I finally got buy-in, which was really exciting, but a quick note on how to get buy-in based on what I did here. So bring the receipts, get data and research. There might be already research and data available for you, like reviews, et cetera, and you can also do this pretty cheap if you do something like we did with running a survey. Of course, you can always chat with your users, tons of different ways here. Have a workshop. So this is hard to get a bunch of people in a room, but make it short, plan it far in advance, just to get people on your side. I was working so much in a silo that it was good to get a group of people that were really excited about this and come up with solutions together. Find a solution that benefits the business. So something that, once again, has this sweet spot that's good for the users, but you can say to the business, this also benefits in this way. Timing was important, so we were working on audiobooks at the time, and then after that, we kind of had this lull where we could work on something else, and then that's when we decided to work on this project. And then, of course, de-risking it, as I mentioned, run an A/B test. Don't just shoot this out. Make sure you're monitoring that data. So yes, so because I got buy-in, we had to make a goal, of course, of how this would benefit the company. And we wanted to reduce customer complaints by 10%. That's what we thought would be a good trade-off for potentially more cancellations. But how many cancellations could we have for that to be worth it? And we thought a maximum of 10% cancellations, and that's what we kind of expected. So I decided to design and code this to make it quicker, and as you can see here on the before version, it was kind of anxiety-inducing, saying that this 7-day, this timer counting down, close buttons on different sides, an overlay on top of an overlay. In general, we needed to fix this screen anyway. As you can see in the after, I used some components that we already had. I also used this wonderful illustration done by Shada, our illustrator. And this was more welcoming and asking people if they wanted to get these reminders for their trial to be ending. I worked with an engineer to send this notification here, mentioning your trial is about to end. You can come check out Blinkist, or you can cancel. And what were the results of this? It was a 4% decrease in cancellations. So we thought there was going to be a 10% increase. So this was super surprising. Our hypothesis of why that happened was maybe people actually started to really trust Blinkist and trust in the brand because we were offering this feature, as well as that maybe people were reminded to use the app, and when they got the notification, came back, realized that they actually love Blinkist and want to keep Blinkist. A reminder here, we didn't have any goal for opt-in to push notifications for that metric to increase. But surprise, a 1,116% increase in push notification opt-in. So this was from 6% to 74%. This was a huge metric increase and super exciting. So we saw an increase by trial retention and also push notification opt-in. So we decided, of course, we want to roll this out as soon as we can. And this is also, of course, helpful for our users. We'd have to wait a few months to see if those customer complaints actually went down and gather that data. We wanted to keep rolling with this. So as I mentioned before, people said their #1 reason for not signing up was that fear of forgetting to cancel. So how do we let people know earlier in the onboarding process that we have this feature and we'll let them know that they can cancel? So our goal was to increase trial signups by 10%. I did some different wireframes for this. So we have this first version here that had kind of different value prop ideas, plus this timeline screen of what happens today, and by a certain date, you'll be charged, et cetera. Then we have this second version in the middle, which was just focusing on the timeline. So what happens today? You'll get this notification day 5, day 7, you're charged. We have the third version here, which was kind of this swiper that was kind of cool at the time, that just shows you what happens on every day of the week, basically. And we ended up deciding to go with something like the middle version. Why we decided on this was because we wanted to make it a clean test and really just focus on this kind of timeline subscription idea. I did some UI explorations for this. I wasn't super excited about any of these at the time, to be honest, because we had to fit them into some boxes. We wanted to reuse this screen. So there's quite a few constraints here, but these are just some kind of ideas that I played with. And here is what it ended up looking like as the after here, of course. So before, this version was actually performing really well. It was showing different value props for benefits of using the app and what you can get out of the app, showing real users using the app. It was really great. But for this new idea that we're going to try, we decided to go with this timeline version as mentioned. So as you can see here, what happens today, in 5 days, and in 7 days. To note here, everything else on the screen was the same. So the button color, the pricing, the copy around the pricing, the view all plans button, the close button, everything was the same. This was a super clean test. We just wanted to test this kind of timeline concept versus the value prop. I wanted to do some user testing before A/B testing for this one. Of course, I wanted to see if it actually was reducing people's anxiety and making people want to sign up. This performed amazing. So I showed everybody the onboarding and then also the app, what's in the app, and every user said their favorite part was the paywall, the paying part. So the fact that we were being honest was their favorite part of the whole thing. People said it makes me feel like you're holding my hand, it makes me feel like you're not being deceptive and you're not lying and you're not stealing my money. So this, of course, made me feel really good. Here's what the full flow looked like, what we ended up doing for the A/B test, and I can walk you through that now, how that would look. So you would land on this welcome screen, and this was performing really well, letting you know what Blinkist is about. And if you decided to click Get Started, you would see the subscription screen, as shown before, what happens today, 5 days, 7 days. And if you click Start My Free Trial, then you would see the standard, what happens with Apple, asking you to sign up for this trial and pay later. And then we had this registration screen. This was after the paywall, because when we moved it after the paywall, it increased conversion by 10%. So not asking for their email before increased this conversion by 10%. If they signed up here, then they would see the screen that I just mentioned with the 7-day, there we go, 7 days starting, and offer you that we will remind you, and you will get the notification on the 5th day. If you click to remind me, you would get the standard, what is required from Apple to have this allow and don't allow, and hopefully they click allow, and then they would land into the app and be able to see what Blinkist is about, and this is what it looked like at the time. It looks a lot better now. So, a goal reminder for this project. So we decided we wanted to run this as an A/B test, of course, and that goal was a 10% increase in trial signups. But what was the results? 23% increase in trial signups. Probably not surprising, name of the talk, but this was really great. We saw this increase that was super surprising for us. We did not expect to see this much of an increase in trial signups. So of course, this is something that we wanted to shoot out and show to the world. Back all the way to the beginning. So our original goal was to reduce these customer service complaints, and that was the most important thing for me. Our goal was a 10% decrease in customer service complaints. What did we see here? A 55% decrease in customer service complaints. Oh, thank you. So this was amazing. This made me feel so good. There's going to be so many Blinkist users out there of people that can actually use their money how they want to use their money. We're not stealing from them, and we can feel so much better about what we do. Just a recap of all the results here on one screen so you can see how this performed. 23% increase in trial signups, 1,116% increase in push notification opt-in, 55% reduction in customer service complaints, 4% reduction in trial cancellations, so 4% increase in trial retention. So this was an amazing project. We shipped this out to everybody. You can see this today, now live in the app. with a few changes, of course, but this is something that Blinkist is still using today. A great project. But of course, there's the unhappy path. So for 2 weeks, there was me and the PM who were away, and we were the two people who were watching the data all the time to see if there was anything going wrong. While we were away, the data went completely off, and we came back, realized that something was definitely wrong, checked customer service complaints, and we saw that people actually weren't getting the notification at all. So this is basically the opposite of defaulting to transparency and not what we wanted to do at all. So tips here is to check the data all the time, but also we had a bit of a backup plan and gave people audiobook credits because with Apple and Google, we weren't able to do refunds, so made a plan that way. We were also using a third-party tool for this, so in the future, we'd probably just build this natively. So some key things to leave here with. Find a balance between the business goals and the user goals. You have to find value for both of them. So not just one or the other. You have to find this balance that works for both cases. This is super important here, and not just making everything free, but also making something that works for the business. Ethics or conversion, I don't think that they should be tied together. I think there's a lot of people saying growth is associated with deceptive patterns, but I don't think that's the case anymore and shouldn't be the case. You can do both of them together, take small steps to make your company more ethical while increasing growth at the same time. Transparency works. So clearly with this project, the more transparent that we saw conversion go higher. So we kept rolling with this, and we actually mentioned cancel more on the subscription screen. The more times we said cancel, the higher conversion would get. So at some point, we had to actually stop saying cancel because the whole screen was saying cancel, cancel, cancel. So this shows that transparency definitely does work, and it's really important for users to have that transparency from your company. Be curious. What is the ethical impact of this that you can have on the world? Maybe today you have a small app, but one day it becomes 1 billion users. What would the effect of that be on the world if everybody is using this feature or this app that you're working on? Just because everybody is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it. You can make an impact. As designers, as developers, we can make an impact on the world by making it more ethical, what we're building. So before we move on, I just wanted to do a little starter pack of questions that you can ask yourself for a more ethical design. These are just some ideas that I have that I work with. I am by no means somebody with a PhD in ethics. There's so much information on this online or courses you can take. I just wanted to do the basic kind of ideas and questions that you should ask before even starting a company, beginning of a project, middle, and end. This is important to always ask these sort of questions. You can change these how you want them to be. Is this clear for everybody? So think of all the different scenarios, backgrounds that people could be in. Is this clear for everyone? If English is somebody's second language, are they able to understand this, and is the writing too convoluted? Is this accessible? Of course, accessibility is a huge behemoth of a topic on its own, but for growth specifically, for us, for example, we had a green button with white text that said subscribe. Potentially colorblind users weren't even seeing this button and clicking it and not knowing what it was for. So of course, now we've changed that, and it is an accessible button. Does the user have autonomy? So as humans, we need autonomy. We deserve autonomy. And if you own a grocery store and somebody is pushing a cart around and they're looking the other way, you're not going to start throwing stuff in their shopping cart and then expect them to pay for this. That's just not ethical at all, and it's a bit weird. So definitely don't do this with your app or website. Could this be deceptive? This is pretty straightforward, but just asking yourself, is this deceiving anyone in any way? Are we infringing on users' privacy? Of course, ethics and privacy is a big topic as well. But for this specifically, maybe with billing, are we asking too much so we can market them something later? Are we asking too much in the sign-up process? Have we shown this to users? So of course, always be doing user testing, as we're aware, and user interviews and stuff, but always just make sure that people find it ethical, and they will usually tell you if something is super frustrating or doesn't feel right to them. Are we being truthful? are we doing any little lies anywhere? So if we're going to say that the taxi comes 2 minutes earlier than it actually is, it's a very small lie, but if we keep on adding these into our app, then it becomes less and less ethical, and I don't think that's ethical to do just to increase more growth or having users stay within our app. Are subscribers actually using your product? So I've spoken to a lot of people who have said that they have subscriptions that keep rolling over every month, and they're paying for these, either without knowing, or they know and they're too lazy, or they just don't know how to cancel. So make it easy to cancel, but also, if people aren't using it, maybe send them a subtle reminder, like, hey, you haven't tried out the app yet. Maybe you should. If you don't like it, you can cancel. How do I feel about it? So we all have a moral compass. If you were to use this app, how would you feel about this? Would you find it ethical? Would you be angry about it? What if your grandmother was using it, or a child was using it, or an entire community was using it? How would that make you feel? And if it was adopted by the industry, which can happen, what effect would that be? It could be something negative by introducing something that other companies adopt, or it becomes so big that so many people are using this. But what would the impact be? It can also go the other way and be a positive impact for ethics across the world. So that leads me to this. This became basically an industry pattern, which is amazing. Basically, every second app I see nowadays has one of these timelines and trial reminders, which is great. So here, share your knowledge. Of course, check with NDAs if it's possible, but sharing knowledge with everyone is great, because then other people can adopt this and make the world a better place. For example, this was one of my goals. I wrote this as a Medium article originally. This got shared and spread so much more than I imagined, and people started to adopt this. And you can definitely use this today. You're more than welcome to basically copy this and try this out on your own. Please let me know how it goes. I love to hear about the success stories and also maybe the not win stories, but I would love to hear from you how this works for you. I've seen everywhere from 20% to 100% growth with companies. There have been some cases where it doesn't work, but mostly for all different industries, this works pretty well. And also for me, it's kind of like if you're a designer, you do some designs on Friday, and then you come back Monday and you hate them. Yeah, that's how this feels. I didn't even really like the designs, but now it's everywhere, so I have to face this. One of my favorite companies that did this, or the favorite idea that they had for this, was doing a step in advance too. So showing that installing the app is already done, to make that user feel like they've already accomplished something, and then they can go on with the rest of the process. I love how they did this. This is Alp Audio, and they saw a 37% increase after adopting this. We also did something like this at GitHub. So my dear pal Darby designed this here, showing that today they're being charged $20, and they'll be charged $25 by a certain date, so being very clear with the timeline here as well. Hemant, also coworker, did this for Copilot, which shows today you're not being charged, but you're going to be charged later on, and showing that in a timeline to be really clear to users. So that's amazing to see in GitHub as well, tying it back to GitHub. Also, Apple has started to suggest this to people. So in their developer videos, they show that the 7-day trial has started and the information on that. They just renamed the app to Ocean Journal, but they kept all the copy and things the same. They also have the timeline screen here. And this was amazing to see, because I really just wanted more people to adopt this. I really would just love to see not just Blinkist users, but everybody benefiting from saving their money and using their money where they want to use it. Not only Apple, Google also adopted this in their videos, and now also suggest this to developers, that they have this in their conversion flow, that they can use these screens to increase conversion, but also be better for the users. So it's just great to see that smaller startups potentially could be making more money, as well as people, as users, benefiting from this. We decided to continue with this even more and see how this would perform with adding more information about cancellation. So we have here on the first screen, We added a smaller FAQ section that was really small. And on the second version here, we have a longer one that showed more information. Why we decided to do this was we wanted to keep on this transparency idea and run with that. But also people were saying, I know I can cancel, but how do I cancel? So another step further that I wanted to do would also be to have this maybe clear in the app, in the settings, saying this is how you can cancel, and make this really clear within the app also. On this first version with the smaller FAQ, we saw a 9% increase in conversions, so that was great. On the second version, we saw no change. Our hypothesis was maybe that the first one was just enough information, and on the second version, it was just a bit too long, became kind of terms and condition-y. So this is another thing you can definitely go and try for your website or app if you're interested. We're getting near the end of the talk. I'm too average everywhere online, on Twitter, Medium, etc. I'm also here around today, so if people in the live audience, you can come say hi. I love talking about conversion, design, ethics, etc. Just anything, you can come say hi. And for the virtual people, I will be doing a virtual panel chat at 3:30 on the break. So if you want to catch that, that's on developer and designer collaboration. And you can find here is my bento, my article. LinkedIn is Jaycee Day, and hi@jayceeday.com. I do consulting. If interested, you can just reach out. Thank you for making growth a more ethical place.